In the United States, geospatial intelligence, GEOINT, is intelligence about the human activity on Earth derived from the exploitation and analysis of imagery and geospatial information that describes, assesses, and visually depicts physical features and geographically referenced activities on the Earth. GEOINT consists of imagery intelligence and geospatial information. Amplified definition. GEOINT encompasses all aspects of imagery and geospatial information and services are formally referred to as mapping, charting, and geodesy. It includes, but is not limited to, data ranging from the ultraviolet through the microwave portions of the electromagnetic spectrum, as well as information derived from the analysis of literal imagery, geospatial data, georeference, social media, and information technically derived from the processing, exploitation, literal and non-literal analysis of spectral, spatial, temporal, radiometric, phase history, polarimetric data, fused products, and the ancillary data needed for data processing and exploitation, and signature information. These types of data can be collected on stationary and moving targets by electro-optical related sensor programs and non-technical means. Here geospatial intelligence, or the frequently used term GEOINT, is an intelligence discipline comprising the exploitation and analysis of geospatial data and information to describe, assess, and visually depict physical features and geographically referenced activities on the Earth. Geospatial intelligence data sources include imagery and mapping data, whether collected by commercial satellite, government satellite, aircraft, or by other means, such as maps and commercial databases, census information, GPS waypoints, utility schematics, or any discrete data that have locations on Earth. There is growing recognition that human geography, socio-cultural intelligence, and other aspects of the human domain are a critical domain of GEOINT data due to the now pervasive georeferencing of demographic, ethnographic, and political stability data. There is an emerging recognition that this legal definition paints with a broad brushstroke an idea of the width and depth of GEOINT, and GEOINT must evolve even further to integrate forms of intelligence and information beyond the traditional sources of geospatial information and imagery, and must move from an emphasis on data and analysis to an emphasis on knowledge. Geospatial data, information, and knowledge. It should be noted that the definitions and usage of the terms geospatial data, geospatial information, and geospatial knowledge are not consistent or unambiguous, further exacerbating the situation. Geospatial data can be applied to the output of a collection system before it is processed, i.e., data that was sensed. Geospatial information is geospatial data that has been processed to had value added to it by a human or machine process. Geospatial knowledge is a structuring of geospatial information, accompanied by an interpretation or analysis. The terms data, information, knowledge, and wisdom are difficult to define, but cannot be used interchangeably. Generally, geospatial intelligence can be more readily defined as data, information, and knowledge gathered about entities that can be referenced to a particular location on, above, or below the Earth's surface. The intelligence gathering method can include imagery, signals, measurements and signatures, and human sources, i.e. IMINT, SIGINT, MASINT, and HUMINT, as long as a geolocation can be associated with the intelligence. relationship to other INTs. Thus, rather than being a peer to the other INTs, geospatial intelligence might better be viewed as the unifying structure of the Earth's natural and constructed features, whether as individual layers in a GIS or as composited into a map or chart. Imagery representations of the Earth, and the presentation of the existence of data, information, and knowledge derived from analysis of IMINT, SIGINT, MASINT, HUMINT, and other intelligence sources and disciplines. Other factors. It has been suggested that GEOINT is just a new term used to identify a broad range of outputs from intelligence organizations that use a variety of existing spatial skills and disciplines, including photogrammetry, cartography, imagery analysis, remote sensing, and terrain analysis. However, GEOINT is more than the sum of these parts. Spatial thinking as applied in geospatial intelligence can synthesize any intelligence or other data that can be conceptualized in a geographic, spatial context. Geospatial intelligence can be derived entirely independent of any satellite or aerial imagery and can be clearly differentiated from IMINT. Confusion and dissension is caused by Title 10 U.S. Code Section 467 separation of imagery or satellite information from geospatial information, as imagery is generally considered just one of the forms which geospatial information might take or be derived from. It has also been suggested that geospatial intelligence can be described as a product occurring at the point of delivery, i.e., by the amount of analysis which occurs to resolve particular problems, not by the type of data used. For example, a database containing a list of measurements of bridges obtained from imagery is information, while the development of an output using analysis to determine those bridges that are able to be utilized for specific purposes could be termed intelligence. Similarly, the simple measurement of beach profiles is a classical geographic information gathering activity, while the process of selecting a beach that matches a certain profile for a specific purpose is an analytical activity, and the output could be termed an intelligence product. In this form, it is considered to be generally used by agencies requiring definitions of their outputs for descriptive and capability development purposes. Geospatial intelligence analysis has been light-heartedly defined as seeing what everybody has seen and thinking what nobody has thought, or as anticipating a target's mental map. Quote. However, these perspectives affirm that creating geospatial knowledge is an effortful cognitive process the analyst undertakes. It is an intellectual endeavor that arrives at a conclusion through reasoning. Geospatial reasoning creates the objective connection between a geospatial problem representation and geospatial evidence. Here, one set of activities, information foraging, focuses around finding information, while another set of activities, sense-making, focuses on giving meaning to the information. The activities of foraging and sense-making in geospatial analysis have been incorporated in the structured geospatial analytic method. De facto definition. An emerging de facto definition of geospatial intelligence is vastly different from the de jure definition expressed in U.S. Code. This new de facto definition is: geospatial intelligence is a field of knowledge, a process, and a profession. As knowledge, it is information integrated in a coherent space-time context that supports descriptions, explanations, or forecasts of human activities with which decision-makers take action. As a process, it is the means by which data and information are collected, manipulated, geospatially reasoned, and disseminated to decision-makers. The geospatial intelligence profession establishes the scope of activities, interdisciplinary associations, competencies, and standards in academe. government, and the private sectors. This has been suggested as an operational definition of geospatial intelligence, which might use the moniker of GeoIntel so as to distinguish it from the more restrictive definition offered in U.S. Code Title 10, Section 467. GEOINT agencies: Australia, Defence Imagery and Geospatial Organisation; Canada, Canadian Forces Joint Imagery Centre; European Union Satellite Centre; Portugal, Army Geospatial Intelligence Centre; United Kingdom, Defence Geographic Centre and the Defence Geospatial Intelligence Fusion Centre; USA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency; U.S. Service Fusion GEOINT Centers; USA Army Geospatial Center; USA National Air and Space Intelligence Center; USA National Ground Intelligence Center; USA National Maritime Intelligence Integration Office. GEOINT units: Australian Army, 1st Topographical Survey Squadron; United States Army, United States Army Space and Missile Defense Command, Army Forces Strategic Command, Advanced Geospatial Intelligence Node; United States Marine Corps, 1st Topographic Platoon; United States Marine Corps, 2nd Topographic Platoon; United States Marine Corps, 3rd Topographic Platoon; United States Army, 1. 5th Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database, 2. 60th Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database, 3. 64th Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database, 4. 132nd Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database, 5. 512th Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database, 6. 517th Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database, 7. 543rd Engineer Detachment, Geospatial Planning Cell Theater Geospatial Database,